Lots going on in the world, and we'll be talking about that here on World Edition and seeing what other folks have to say as well. But there's a number of things that are taking place around the world and in the world that folks will be caring about and be quite interested in, and all along those lines. So, like I said, a lot's taking place, and glad to be talking about those here on the World Edition. I've got Dr. Sharice that'll be joining me as well, and others may be coming in also. So we'll see what they've got to say about a number of these important issues that are taking place in the world and around the world. So it looks like the video of the Kirk shooting suspect has been released as officials plead for public health. Definitely, I think we have him. Trump says of a Kirk suspect as FBI head about to give an update. And so it looks like they may have apprehended the man that assassinated Charlie Kirk, and all along those lines, at least that's what Donald Trump is saying, and we'll see if this is the case or is something major that is going on. So, the person in custody in shooting of Charlie Kirk, Trump says, and he's calling for the death penalty. So, death penalty, he's been identified as Tyler Robinson. So, definitely saying that he's 22 years old, and definitely we'll find out more about him as the case continues. Trump says he sent the National Guard into Memphis to fix crime like DC. So Trump says he's targeting Memphis in a crime crackdown, and we've actually got some reporters and folks connected with the network that are in Memphis. So we'll have to see what they've got to say about that. So Trump says National Guard will deploy to Memphis next, sidestepping Chicago. So definitely, Trump says federal troops going to Memphis next. Chuck Schumer makes shutdown warning. So definitely that's what we're hearing. And Josh Kraft has bowed out of the Boston race for mayor. Patriots owner's son drops out of the Boston mayoral race. Wu won all but a handful of Boston precincts in Tuesday's preliminary, and it looks like Josh Kraft has ended the campaign for Boston mayor, saying he can make a better impact in other roles. And a no shooter threat found at U.S. Naval Academy in Maryland. Officials say midshipmen shot as officials investigate threat report at the United States Naval Academy. And a false report of a shooter prompts gunfire and injuries at that particular institution. And California lawmakers passed a bill to ban ICE agents from wearing masks. So immigration activity confirmed in San Jose as ICE regulation policy heads to council, and CHEP exempted from California police unmasking bill. So mask ban in California creates constitutional questions that are hard to answer. And South Korean workers return home after a day of detention, and all along those lines. So they returned home to tearful cheers. Workplace safety issues at Georgia's Hyundai plant may have led to the ICE raid. And the South Korean president says Georgia ICE raids could have considerable impact on direct U.S. investment from his country. And silly to worry about SCOTUS overturning tariffs is what Letnick is saying. So Supreme Court seeks to avoid being cornered on the Trump tariffs. Trump doesn't want the Blackfeet Nation to intervene in the tariff suit. So definitely the Supreme Court decision on tariffs creates uncertainties for Rochester Hill businesses. And breaking precedent, GOP changes rule on nominees. So GOP goes nuclear in Senate, changing rules to speed confirmation of Trump nominees after negotiation with Democrats collapse. Senator Republicans trigger the nuclear option, changing rules to speed up Trump nominees. And Patel and the FBI face scrutiny as Kurt's killer was out there at large for a while, but it does look like he's been apprehended. But we'll be finding more about this as the day continues. Rubio vows U.S. response following conviction of Brazil's Bolsonaro. So Operation World Cup, the murder plot at the heart of the Brazil's trial of the century. Rubio warns Brazil of U.S. response after Bolsonaro's conviction for plotting a coup. So definitely that's something going on as well. And the Evergreen High School shooting suspect seemed like a normal everyday kid. Denver area high school shooting suspect was radicalized, according to what some officials are saying. And the jury trial of Ryan Roos, the man accused of trying to kill Trump, begins in Florida, or it began in Florida. Suspect in Trump assassination attempt veers off topic and forfeits opening statement at his trial. So definitely that's another trial that is definitely involving some of the things going on with Trump's policies and other things, and even the attempt on his life. Three pillars of Trump power set to be tested at the Supreme Court. So legal scholars are analyzing court rulings on Trump's immigration agenda. So that's definitely something we're hearing about as well. And vessel struck by U.S. military off Venezuela was headed back to the shore, according to AP sources. Venezuela says 11 were killed in a U.S. boat strike that were not gang members amid reports vessel was returning to the shore. So we'll definitely hear some stuff about that as well. Let's see what's going on in the world side, but partially because of what's going on with the apprehension of the person that is alleged to have been the assassin of Charlie Kirk. Poland rejects Trump's suggestions that Russia's drone raids could have had other purposes. So after Russia's drone incursion, don't cut military support for the Baltic. So how Russia's salami slicing strategy is testing the West, and Russian drones force Europe to defend itself, perhaps alone, after Putin puts down a marker to NATO. And Prince Harry makes a surprise visit to Ukraine in support of wounded troops. So Prince Harry made a surprise visit to Ukraine, pledging support for thousands injured in the war. Prince Harry made that surprise trip in that area. And before and after satellite images show how Israel has destroyed Gaza City. So Israel intensifies its Gaza City strikes as many residents refuse evacuation. Facing Israeli assault, many in Gaza City say fleeing again is worse, and Palestinians report 43 killed by Israeli fire across Gaza Strip since dawn. And Denmark will be buying a $9 billion air defense system as tensions with Russia grow. So Denmark chose the European air defenses over the U.S. Patriots. So definitely a loss for Trump as Denmark chooses Franco-Italian air defense system over that of the U.S. And Trump is to meet with the Qatar's prime minister Friday in the aftermath of Israeli strike in Doha. So U.S. joins UN Security Council condemnation of an Israeli strikes on Qatar. Every time they're making progress, it seems like he bombed someone, is what it was reported in the Politico. And Gulf countries question the value of U.S. protection after the Israeli attack. And oil prices jump almost 2% on risk to Russian output. So investigating reports of mass drone attacks against Russia and Ukraine energy strikes hit Russia at the pump. And China gives Mexico stiff warning over tariffs seen appeasing the U.S. China warns Mexico to think twice about raising tariffs and threatens countermeasures. Mexico acting under coercion to constrain China with 50% tariffs on cars, says Beijing. And Iran says enriched nuclear material under the rubble of facilities hit during the Israeli war. So Iran and nuclear watchdogs signed an agreement seeking a path to restart that cooperation as well. And as I said yesterday, U.S. influencer under investigation in Australia over controversial crocodile videos. So Steve Irwin's father condemns reckless content creators amid outrage over videos of U.S. man wrestling wild crocodiles. And of course, there's still news in Nepal. Nepal's social media ban backfires as politics moves to a chat room. So Nepal's former Chief Justice Karki likely to be the interim prime minister is what sources are saying. And Nepal army says in talks with protesters to decide on an interim leader. And Kathmandu Mayor Balan's word of caution for Nepal Gen Z, please don't. So definitely there's a lot of things going even with the Gen Zs in that area as well. And at Mael Adaman, Netanyahu buried the two-state solution. Netanyahu vowed there will be no Palestinian state. This place belongs to us. Israel Prime Minister vows there will be no Palestinian state. So Netanyahu signed a West Bank settlement expansion plan and rules out the idea of a Palestinian state. So that's something going on. And China's newest aircraft carrier sails towards the Taiwan Strait. So that's a lot going on in the world, including Block Everything protests sweeping across France. So France welcomes a new prime minister with Block Everything protests and all along those lines. So lots going on around the world, in Europe, in Asia, even in Africa and other places also. So getting ready to bring in my folks, see what they've got going on. I've got Rick Rosner with me. I had Sharif with me, but he disappeared.
Hello.
How are you doing?
Okay, so they got the guy, this Tyler Robinson, which saved the FBI's ass, because I don't know if they would have got him with. I guess eventually they would have, but The dad recognized his kid, recognized the T-shirt, I guess, and kept the kid, uh, held him until the authorities could arrive. He's from, I guess, Orem, Utah, which is in the southwestern corner of the state, 250 miles from where, if it's true that he shot him, from where he shot him. He's 22 years old, born in 2003. We don't know anything about his politics at this point, but he's a freaking kid. Um, he doesn't have that characteristic, totally insane look that you see in some shooters, but he murdered a guy in cold blood for, so we'll see how insane he is. Not that that excuses that we don't excuse people for being insane anymore. That not guilty by reason of insanity. I don't. It doesn't come up as much as it did in like the movie and TV plots of the 60s and 70s.
That's true. And like I said, there was lots of famous TV shows where and even some of the police dramas where they constantly made a case of it and everything. And I'm not even sure how popular a plea it is. Some of our lawyers on here, like Nick and others, will have to tell us and everything. But you're right, I don't hear about it as much as you used to and everything like that. But one of the things that you also don't hear about as much, and I thought about this yesterday, but I didn't bring it up, is there was a time that if people were deemed to be insane, that citizens of the area could actually turn them into the insane.
Well, it's illegal. You can only hold a lunatic for 72 hours without the crazy person's consent.
Right.
And so you could argue that's better than warehousing crazy people for decades at a time and not really helping them. But this way is terrible also, because you have Los Angeles has 73,000 homeless people. And, if a third of them are crazy, that's 24,000 crazy people just trying to fend for themselves on the street in one city.
Yep. And I know that one of the most notorious, well, there's a couple. There's the one up in New York, Bellevue, and everything like that. But one of the most notorious, I guess you could call them insane asylums, is right here in North Carolina. And that's where Squeaky Fromm and a number of others were held, and all along those lines, because it's actually in Butner, which is a small rural town, and all along those lines. But it has definitely got that reputation for a lot of federal people, including some of the ones that were finance wizards and everything like that, or supposed finance wizards that have served time there as well. I think Squeaky Fromm, and maybe there might be others as well that might be the most.
My sister worked at Bellevue. My sister's a forensic psychiatrist, that's the psychiatrist that comes, like, if somebody pushes somebody onto the subway tracks, and then they take them into custody. My sister's the one they would bring in to interview the pusher to see if they're just a huge, homicidal asshole, or whether they're actually crazy. So she worked at Bellevue. Bellevue isn't just for crazy people. I think it's a full-on hospital, but its reputation is for holding crazy people. But she ended up suing them, and I guess the New York mental health system, because she said they were corrupt and inept. So,
yeah. And I don't think Butner is strictly for mental illness either, but I could be wrong and everything. Am I correct here, Toby? Because I know that a lot of people that have been put in that facility were federal folks, because it is a federal facility and everything. Dealt with
the Republicans like to blame the Democrats for being soft on crime. But until we have new legislation that figures out a different solution that lets you deal with that lets you address crazy people, and it seems wrong to hold crazy people indefinitely, but it seems wrong. We know it's wrong from experience that holding them for just 72 hours and then it also doesn't work.
No. And like I said, Butner, which is near downtown Durham, has got a number of folks that have been famous, and it is a federal correctional institution, so it's not just got the mental aspect of it, because it also is a federal medical center. But yeah, like I said, I know that I want to say one of the people that was known for having shot at Ford was over there. Squeaky Fromm, I want to say R. Kelly may still be over there if I'm remembering correctly, and Bernie Murdoch was there until he passed away. And there have been others that have had the pleasure of staying in that particular
Yeah,
facility.
and so you're calling this Buckner place, you say, is a prison and a facility for mentally messed up people. I don't know. That sounds like if that's what you're doing, it seems like that's a way to confuse the issue, and like you're going to be treating crazy people like prisoners. But the people you talked about are prisoners. If they were, they got put away
Yes,
for crime, but in the crazy side of the facility.
right, exactly. That is my understanding of it and everything along those lines. But like I said, Toby, any thoughts around this notion of who they picked up and whether he's the person that did it? And do you think he might be coming here to North Carolina? Because I do know that some of those people have come down to our famous North Carolina facility at Butner. So, what is your thoughts around this person that just recently got apprehended?
I mean, I don't know if I don't they well, was it Cash Patel that put out the wrong individual to start with? Then there
Maybe
was
two of them. Yeah,
yeah.
they held down a guy in his
So
60s.
so right now it's just a matter of waiting to see what the actual police and the agents do. Um, and I if it turns out to be the individual, then great. Glad they caught him. Hopefully, they, um, he serves time and the justice and everything. However, that's not what's going to happen. And that's the bad part because he's going to be used as they're using Charlie Kirk as a martyr to rally. That's what it's going to be now, and that's the sad thing because Charlie Kirk never he and again, he didn't deserve to die. What happened to him is a tragedy. It is sad. It's very sad. But he
What
doesn't deserve the Medal of Freedom. He doesn't deserve a statue to be put up about him. He's a detestable individual for the things that he had said and the things that he put out there. I know he has
he,
followers and know that stuff. He was a very divisive person, and we cannot whitewash that. And but again, he had a family. He's a family man and stuff like that. He did great by his family. Sad for his family. Sad for what happened to him. But we cannot make him a martyr, and that's what he's doing, or that's what's happening now. And what's even worse is what they're going to do to whomever they find as the culprit of this crime. They're going to treat that individual. They're going to parade him around and do things to him that should not be done to any criminal. So just out of vengeance, we are at that point now that we're doing a lot of vengeance things, and we have justified those because that's what this president has done with a lot of the things that he's done with going after individuals, and that's bad, and that's not where we should be as a society. Um,
Speaking of vengeance, Jatovi and I alluded to it yesterday, and I also mentioned it on World Politics and everything. But a lot of people, I've even had a friend of mine that's political oriented and does columns here in the area that called Charlie Kirk kind of like the white Jesus and all along those lines and everything like that. But he was wondering if the attacks that we saw, and we did see attacks on several black colleges on yesterday, was not a direct response to the
Yes,
Trump.
it was totally. All you have to do, all some asshole has to do, is make a phone call.
it
My
was.
back in less fraught times, my late brother David worked as a lifeguard, I think at the Elks Club in Albuquerque. And sometimes, if he didn't want to go to work, he'd call in a bomb threat. And they'd shut down the whole. I mean, that's bad, but it wasn't like the end of the world back in 1980 or 1979 or something. It was just my brother being a dick. But now, but so the martyr thing.
It
So,
was. But
it,
before you get off to the martyr piece, but yes, it was a direct response because what they tried to do again, 14 shooting murders had happened between August 22nd, when the young lady was murdered on the light rail in Charlotte, and Charlie Kirk. They tried ever since they had showed the video of the young lady being murdered to make it into a race issue. They then tried to do the same thing with Charlie Kirk because they're trying to tie them together. So it is a direct response of what happened based off of the Charlie Kirk situation. Because even Fox News went on and all the other right-wing media stations went on talking about this is war. We need to go after them. Who have they demonized? Who have they attacked repeatedly? DEI became this whole thing that they're attacking, and so on and so forth. It just bleeds down. Charlie Kirk, again, he did not deserve what happened to him. Nobody deserves death. Nobody should celebrate his death. But what we should understand is that we cannot whitewash the things that he has said. He has gone after black people.
At best, he was a racist carnival barker with a road show. So, but here's I've got a tweet that says what we know about this kid so far, this Tyler Robinson. His father is a retired sheriff and maybe a current minister. He's Mormon. The kid is white. He was raised with guns and shooting, and he wore a Trump costume for Halloween. And they have a picture. It's one of those costumes where he looks like he's riding piggyback on Trump. Does that mean he likes Trump or hates Trump? I don't know. But as far as the martyr thing, like if the assassin had killed Trump instead of just clipping his ears, the martyrdom is supposed to have two parts. You're supposed to be saintly, and you're supposed to die for your faith. That's what makes a martyr. And Trump is anything but saintly, but the right would have, turned him, into a martyr. Same for Charlie Kirk. Charlie Kirk was a very successful huckster who mobilized a lot of young bros based on racism and other beyond conservative stuff. I mean, you can't call Charlie Kirk's brand of conservatism true conservatism because it was based on a lot of ugly stuff.
Hey, Rick, you said something that I wasn't sure about because I thought that you could be a martyr without necessarily being it tied to your faith and everything.
Well, no, or if you're like a young innocent, kid who goes off to war as a soldier, and you get taken prisoner, and then they eventually chop your head off. You're a martyr, and but like it's generally somebody who's blameless. And it's not that Charlie Kirk is to blame for being murdered. That's not. But it's somebody who's not an active, who's not promoting assholery, right? It generally, when you think of a martyr, you don't think of like if Bernie Madoff had been killed by one of his angry investors that lost $200 million, like. That wouldn't make Bernie Madoff a martyr.
Right. Oh, the same with the Unabomber, who was another person that stayed at Butner as well, because he passed away also. But yeah, he wouldn't necessarily be a martyr unless he was died in doing one of those bombings, like he died in the middle of the bombing.
So one thing that the conservatives like to say that was positive that Charlie Kirk did was he'd go to college campuses and he'd debate people. Though I've read one editorial saying that wasn't so admirable because he'd pick people who were young and dumb and bad at debate. And it's like the show that we do at night, where I debate Lance. Lance is conservative, Trumpy. He listens to 50 hours of podcasts a week while he's doing his visual art. He just pipes it into his head. When I try to argue against him, my arguments suck because he's been highly trained, and I sound like a freaking idiot often. And ditto for Charlie Kirk. Charlie Kirk would go to campuses, have the arsenal of Republican, of MAGA argument, and he'd turn that arsenal on some young dumb kid and make the liberal kid look stupid.
But it wasn't just Charlie Kirk that did it. There's a whole YouTube series because I know that there's several liberals that do it too. Where it'll be
Yeah.
like one person of major political
Jubilee.
source going against 25, usually young people. But I forgot the name of that.
Or
show.
in Jubilee, they do 1 verse 20.
Say, what did you say it's called?
Jubilee does 1 verse 20. That became a trend.
That's what I was trying to think about.
There's also, I mean, there are other individuals that do it. Like I pointed out, the kid a few days back, Dean Withers. His big shtick is that he'll say 1 verse 100, but he just goes on his live YouTube or his live stream and has Trump or MAGA people call in and he debates them. He does a great job. I mean, I enjoy his stuff. It's actually kind of interesting watching him. So it's not a unique thing, but I mean, again, your martyrdom and stuff like that, that is the problem that's happening now. And that is basically basically you have your cult leaders or your leaders of particular ideologies, and based on how they're seen, if they are revered and beloved, and you follow what they're saying, it doesn't matter, if it's whatever it is. David Duke would have been a martyr for those who follow him.
Yeah.
And what they're trying to do now, again, which is bad. No one deserves death. What happened to Charlie Kirk was bad. But they are utilizing him in a way that should never be utilized. And that's the problem.
I'm just curious, Dr. Sharif, since you're over in Bangladesh and Asia, which has more than half the population of the world, do you guys get any of this stuff over there in Asia, or is it not on television, or what's going on over there? Do you guys even know who this guy is, Charlie Kirk?
I think so. People definitely watch this kind of shows and all of the things. But if you ask me personally, I cannot, because I have too much of workload and activities. Another interesting things right now, if you want to know more news about Asia, recently you see what happened in Nepal.
Mm-hmm.
You see that in first it's happened in Sri Lanka. It's go for revolutions, and then it's happened in Bangladesh. Bangladesh go for political revolution, and then it's happened in Nepal. So all of the things you find that it's the young people. What happened in Nepal? Basically, the government, they have internal corruptions. Many countries has. Secondly, they stop social media, all of the social media. That's why all of the riot and revolutions happen in Nepal. And you already mentioned that 19 people died. Then the young people come to the street, and like Bangladesh, they go for revolutions. And the political leaders and the prime minister, he ran away and he resigned from his positions. That is interesting point, what I'm regularly discussing about talent economy, youth populations. Around 57 to 60% populations is youth in Asia. So youth has huge influence right now in economy, in politics, in science and innovation. And finally, most important factor is social media, what Pot TV is doing, creating influence, sharing knowledge. But definitely I want more productive program. I want more informative program from Pot TV. So the social media also very, very popular, and it's become very influential and all of the things. So economy, politics, and technologies, because of AI, all of the things is changing. So new era of economics, politics, and technology is coming.
What's the
We have to
crime in your
accept all.
individual countries where you are at? I know, Nick, you're in.
Yeah, what's your question?
We
Yeah,
can't
so
hear you, Mark.
I was wondering, how bad is the crime wave? Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Oh, thank you. I was wondering how bad is the crime wave in Bangladesh and in Spain, because I just saw that originally he was going to go to Chicago, that being Trump, and now he's going to Memphis, and I didn't know that Memphis. And even though we've got some reporters and some shows coming from
Yeah.
Memphis, so I'll try
I-
to see what they've got going on. But how bad is the crime compared to the U.S. in both Spain and Bangladesh? Because, like I said, right now he's targeting Memphis instead of Chicago.
Well,
I do not want.
I just looked up the numbers on that, so I can give you some hard data on that. And I'll put it up on the internet so you can see what it is. Okay, here we go. For 100,000 murders in USA, 5.7 per 100,000. Bangladesh, 2.3 per 100,000. Spain, 0.061 per 100,000. So what is the safest country, Mark?
Right now it looks like Spain.
Duh. And where do I live?
You live in Spain.
No further questions.
I want to go back to what Dr. Sharif was talking about, because that was on a positive note, because we've been on a sad note at the beginning. But going back to Dr. Sharif, in terms of the AI side of things and the technology side of things, where is Bangladesh going with that?
Bangladesh actually, people has a lot of interest. Academia has a lot of interest. Different startup is developing inside Bangladesh. Even different American corporation, they are also investing in Bangladesh. It's very positive. It's very positive. And I see the three continent. Number one, the South Asia. Number two, China. Definitely India, Bangladesh, and Pakistan also. Number two, China. And number three is Africa. These three area, these three things. Number one, economy. Number two, political change. And number three, this technological innovation, artificial intelligence, heavily improving, and especially the young people. Again, the young people, this demographic group of people are the most productive group of people, and they will be the next decision maker for our world. So we need to focus on this leadership development. But I see amazing contribution this, especially these young people. So I think my World Talent Economic Forum, what we are doing last 5 years, it's getting the positive momentum through this process. But definitely, we do not want crime. We do not want unlawful death. We do not want corruptions. We do not want all of the unhealthy competitions. We want more intelligence. We want more wisdom and contribution. That's why all of your experience, like Professor Nick, Jatovi, Rick, Markley, and all of your program is very valuable for the young people. So this is high time. The education process, innovative education process, we need to deploy, and we need to change our education system. So this kind of dialogue, this kind of case study, industrial educations, startup developments, political revolutions, we need to accept. So that is the request from my side to the education institutions, to the government. I believe USA also will face in near futures the same way, because honestly speaking, last uh, 12 or 8 or 9 years, like Trump, Biden, what we are observing, this is not convincing in terms of UX innovations and talent economy and political things. This is not convincing at all. Definitely, young people gonna take over the positions, then they will fill up the gap, and maybe near future USA has to face this kind of challenging situation from the youth population.
Hey, speaking of
Here's
the
actually
like
another. I had another quick one for you, Dr. Sharif. Because staying in the technology realm, one of the things that's starting to pick up, I guess it's slowly picking up, but because I guess it fits in the whole fabrication side, or the fabrication world, if you actually tie it to it, because you're really just creating things. 3D printing, how is that picking up in Bangladesh? Because I know there are a couple of new, like Bamboo is a Bamboo, Creality, Elegoo. I think they're all three Chinese companies. However, Bamboo was getting sued because of their enclosure. However, Bamboo is one of the top selling 3D printers out there. Elegoo is also one. Creality, I think, is number one. But Bamboo Labs has put out their brand new one, the H2, and it has an AMS where you can print multiple colors. Elegoo's just put out one that's an enclosed one. But needless to say, my question is, in Bangladesh, has it picked it up there? Because you can 3D print just about anything you want to.
Yeah, that's very interesting questions, because last year when I was in USA, I worked with this 3D printing activities in my research lab, and I want to introduce this 3D printing activities in Bangladesh. Bangladesh, if you compare USA market, if you compare even like the Silicon Valley, it's not so advanced. This is also opportunity, like you can introduce this kind of 3D printing because we have industry. So if we want to develop prototype, example, for our real estate, we can use 3D printing. Example, for our garments industries, it's booming. So if we want to introduce this prototype and design, we can use 3D printing. I believe still it has a very big room, this kind of technology. I appreciate it.
Yeah, see, this is a light that I had created.
Yeah, speaking of appreciating and everything like that, there's another thing, and this is a huge utopia because most of us have been on this news show are of a certain age and all along those lines, even though I know that Dr. Sharif and you are definitely younger than me and Rick and even definitely Nick's the oldest of us all when he's on here and everything. But there's a new watch that probably a lot of people will be wanting to rush to because a lot of people are facing high blood pressure and everything like that. So apparently Apple Watch has got a hypertension alert that has been cleared by the FDA for new and old watches. So I just wondering y'all's thoughts around that because a lot of people are dealing with hypertension regularly and everything. So
my wife has an Apple Watch, and we're in the AFib years where sometimes, just life makes our heart go crazy a little bit for a couple hours. And the Apple Watch will give you an EKG, and it's very helpful. My wife didn't need, you go to the doctor and saying, is my heart okay? And then they stick all the things on you, right? The little electrodes. And the doctor didn't need to do it for my wife. Doctor takes a look at her watch, goes, I know what that is. And here's how we deal with it. So yeah, anything that increases like the medical functions that you can just wear on your wrist is freaking awesome.
Yeah. One thing I just want to add for my friend Jatovi and Nick, Rick, also Mark. If you are interested to work with South Asia, we are launching my World Talent Economic Forum and this IIT Kharagpur. We are collaborating for developing 500 startups. And in this ecosystem, all of the brilliant people from South Asia, especially from IIT, they will develop their startup. If you want to contribute, if you want to collaborate, if you want to take, even buy any startup or want to grow your business in South Asia, you are welcome. Perhaps this is one of the best ecosystem in the world. You can grow very fast. You can show your talent. You can I see that you have a lot of innovations. You can utilize your innovations, and you can help uplifting the global South economy, and you can help your country and you can help yourself. This is one of the best initiatives. I want to welcome you all.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
Okay, that. Yeah, so we can do that and everything like that and all along those lines. One of the things that I was seeing just in that technology level and everything, but apparently there's a gentleman named Jeff Raskin that is looking at trying to create the quest for a humane computer. So I'm just wondering y'all's thoughts around that because I guess we're trying to find a computer that's a little bit more humane than the average ones and everything like that. And apparently this gentleman was the originator of Macintosh.
Yeah, I don't know what you mean.
Like
so a computer that's easier for people to use, but there's a thing in AI called the alignment problem, which is how do you work with train AI to make sure that AI's priorities are human priorities, that it doesn't develop goals of its own and then turns around and F's humanity. So I hope he's talking about that, because that is one of the biggest potential problems of the near and mid future that AI is going to, that's, I mean, it's the Terminator.
And that's apparently
Skynet
what
problem.
just the articles I found. It was from Ars Technica and everything. Is exactly what you just said, Rick. Because he said that computing history, of course, is filled with such terminal diversions that have never been fully realized, many for good reasons, and particularly when it comes to user interfaces and how humans interact with computers. A lot of wild ideas deserved the obscure burials they got, but some deserved better. Nearly every aspirant interface designer believes the way we were forced to interact with computers was limited and frustrating, but one man in particular felt the emphasis on design itself missed the forest for the trees rather than drowning in visual.
Right, that's kind of that.
Right.
That's kind of that. I'm writing this novel set in the near future where one of the main characters is very concerned about AI going crazy on people, and he tries to get AI addicted to human vices. He's trying to get AI to share brain space, to have AI connected to human brains so AI can experience what humans experience of the world, the pleasures of the world. So it's like to get AI addicted to human type sensation and thinking. And the argument is, don't kill me, bro. We're the same, bro.
And that's basically what this says, because the rest of, without going into the whole argument, says the way we deal and interact with computers should stress functionality first, simultaneously considering both what users need to do and the cognitive limits they have. It was no longer enough that an interface be usable by humans; it must also be humane as well. To your point,
Jacoby, you look at a lot of near future anime, and what do you think? Is this like a solvable problem, or is AI just eventually going to crush us?
I mean, it's not a solvable problem. I mean, at some point, I mean, the computer is going to win out. It's just, but when is that going to be? Don't know. I mean, it's going to take a while for programming and for computers to create that whole singularity based on the algorithms and so on and so forth. That's the distance in the future. But I mean,
to your point, I see all these books behind Nick and everything along those lines. So he's got this extensive library and everything. And I've heard people say that eventually he won't need those those books that are behind him. I don't even know what the books are, because it'll all be on a microchip that can be placed in his head and everything like that.
Mark, I bet you, Nick could pick out one of those books. You could type that name of that, or type up summary of, and then name that book in ChatGPT or in Google or on Gemini, whatever you want to put it. You can just do it in a search engine now because they're tied to AI. I bet you to give you a summary.
Yeah, I've asked AI lately. I've asked AI some ridiculously obscure questions. AI's like, here you go. But like,
don't get me wrong. Oh, I was just going to say, AI can be wrong.
Yeah, I used AI to do some legal research, and it was completely off base. And the thing is, the lawyers have been reprimanded because a lot of lawyers will rely on AI to do their research, and that's wrong because, the thing is, AI isn't there yet. But interesting, one of those books back there is by Alec Ross. It's called Industries of the Future. If you read the book, now this was printed in 2016, so it's almost 10 years old. His Industries of the Future was not AI. It was robotics, genome advances, and then a certain amount of coding, which I guess maybe you could say coding is AI. But he basically poo-pooed AI. AI may be just a dream of Wall Street, but a failure of Wall Street at the same time, as most of the companies that have ventured into this, like 93%, have lost money with no end in sight. But, if what he is saying is correct, it's actually robotics, which is big and that's recent. I talked to Dr. Tree, big in Japan. In other words, Japan and China are heavy into robotics, mainly even creating robots to take care of the senior people, because as people age, there's nobody to take care of them. So they're using a lot of robotics. And then number two was advancement in genome. And we're seeing this already with the DNA and actually mRNA, the thing that the RFK doesn't like. It looks like there's developments where it cures cancer, like no kidding. mRNA technology developed by the University of Florida, University of Miami, Russia, and other places have used this technology to eradicate cancer. So now we see, and those were the two advancements Ross was saying. It was, in his opinion, the industries of the future were going to be robotics and genome or mRNA technology increases. But nothing on AI. And right now, even though Planter stock did really well, I thought about buying it, but I didn't.
Check this out, Nick.
You know, it's not going anywhere.
Yeah, so check this out. The big thing, yes, robotics is going to be there. Genome technology is going to be there. A lot of sciences are going to be there. You know why? Because of AI. You know what's going to run that robot? AI. You know what's behind a lot of the genome technology,
yeah, no, I understand that.
AI is using that. So I'm not saying that AI is the end all be all. And AI is like the internet. When the internet came out, there was the big old bubble that burst because everybody used the internet incorrectly and learned how to use it in a different way. Now we can't even live without the internet. AI is the same way. AI is
just going to be integrated into the internet. In other words, it looks like.
Just try to experiment. Hold on a second. I just tried to experiment. I typed in "mug the pug" because that's a commercial that I see all the time, and it said this is an AI on Google. While the exact term "mug the pug" does not appear to refer to a specific character in a single book or franchise, it's a phrase used in the titles of multiple children's books. The phrase has also been used in a series of YouTube videos and describe pug-themed merchandise. Books of The Mugged Pug. In this children's mystery by Sally and Daryl Odgers, Shuffle the Pug is mugged for his collar, leading the dog detective Jack Russell to take on the case. Pug, What a Mug, written by Lori Haskins Horan. This book is about pugs and includes information about the breed's history. It is part of the Little Dog Rock series. And Mimi the Pug had a very smush mug. In this story by Allison Cinnamon, the pug named Mimi is the center of her owner's world until more siblings, both human and
all right, we get it. AI knows. All right, so AI. So there's going to be a big shakeout. In 1999, everybody thought the internet was going to make them a millionaire. That you put up a website, everybody goes to your website, $1 million. And then in the year 2000, everybody realized, no, that's not how it's going to work. And there was a big crash. People lost their asses. Then Google comes along in 2004? And, now we're all married to the internet. Same with AI. AI's been, you hear it in every freaking ad. AI, makes your hotel reservation, da-da-da-da-da. It's too hyped. At some point, there's going to be a shakeout. A bunch of people are going to lose a bunch of money. And then it'll rebuild from there into like a legit AI kind of.
And Rick, what you're talking about is that AI bubble, and that is bursting right now. That is what Nick is talking about when Nick is talking about people losing money. But AI is just like the internet, because when we're talking about the robots that are taking off, what we're talking about that's AI. That's what's running that. We're talking about the manufacturing. Oh, we're going to bring manufacturing back. You know what's going to run those companies, those robots, and AI. What's going to build these things? AI. It's all in how the usage is going to come to play and how it's going to get integrated into everything. It's integrated in everybody's phone right now. It's integrated in everything you search on Google right now. And Google, Bing, Yahoo, everything.
Just market growth, and this you'll love, and maybe you can bring it up on Economics Monday and everything, but without going to everything I asked it. But the global AI market is projected for significant growth from an estimated 189 billion in 2023 to 4.8 trillion by 2033. However, this growth doesn't guarantee individual success.
The two big things that are hindering AI at this moment, which we are actually killing ourselves to make happen, is the water issue and the battery issue or the heating issue.
Right.
Because to power AI, it takes a lot of power. To that search that you just did on AI, that is the same amount of power used to run an incandescent light for a year and a half.
Right.
So that amount of power just to do the simple search on the summary of Mug the Pug just ran a light for a full year. So figuring out the energy problem, that's another thing that's going to take off. People aren't investing enough in that energy and trying to figure out that solution. There are some companies that are, but that's where nuclear fission is going to come into play. Nuclear fusion is going to come into play. And that's what a lot of countries are trying to figure out. But again, to figure out the nuclear fusion component, because that's a lot of heat and a lot of energy, that's where the water issues got to come into play, because that's what's powering the server or keeping the servers cool. That's going to kill us because that's overheating the planet. That's taking away our water supply. It's just it's a huge
eventually you're going to have to move the AI energy generation to the moon or some place where it's not going to F us up. I got one more thing, and then the coffee's kicking in. I have to run away. But you talked about AI is eventually going to crush us. One of the ways that we're going to have to hold it off longer is we're going to have to integrate with AI. We're going to, our brains are slow compared to AI. We're going to have to add, wearable devices and eventually stuff inside our heads to rev up our thinking so we can link to AI and keep up with it.
Well, I mean, that's happening now. That's what the point of Neuralink is. And the other company,
Neuralink kills a bunch of rhesus monkeys. They put the chip in their head and then they get an infection.
But that's the scary thing, is that's where we are headed. That's the whole premise of Black Mirror. That's the pre-AI everything. Because right now, once you start putting chips into people, which people are testing that out.
That's what I mean.
That is that move forward.
We're fucking on the pony. We're riding it, and then we got no choice. And I got to go. I'll see you on Monday. Literally.
Look, that coffee is calling. I just see that there's going to be greater developments in the scientific area. The real problem, of course, is picking the right stocks. They're going to win the ball game. And because there is a stock out there, we just don't know what it is, that's going to take off like a rocket, either in robotics, genome technology.
You mean there's another NVIDIA? Because that's what everybody keeps.
Yeah, actually, that's true. There's another NVIDIA out there. We just don't know what it is.
So, for example, NVIDIA, there are competitors to NVIDIA. NVIDIA makes a chip. It's the same thing with Intel, with the whole Intel idea. There's AMD. AMD is another company that makes a chip that goes in your computer. You can buy an AMD computer.
Yeah, you can
buy computers or Intel. Same thing with the chips that are in the Macintosh or the Macs, the AirBooks, the iPods. That's a different chip than Intel as well, because Apple makes that chip. It's a priority chip. Then Samsung makes a chip. They have their devices running on the Samsung chip. Samsung also makes chips for Google devices as well as Apple devices. Mm-hmm. So there are other chip makers that are creating things. There are other the tech industry is a wild west, and just like you said, Nick, one of them is going to hit.
Right, one of them's going to hit. But I was looking for a smaller, more fast, rapidly growing companies that hasn't been acquired yet, because Google acquired AlphaGo, and once these companies reach a certain level, they tend to get acquired by these big corporations that have big bucks, and then that's it. It's over with. So what I'm looking for is the smaller companies that are moving rapidly. Microsoft before it was Microsoft, Google before it's Google, NVIDIA before it's NVIDIA, and Palantir, which I had an opportunity to buy because it's run by a chess player. He was heavily involved, but I passed on it because it looked like it was being overhyped, but the stock took off even after the hype. So, the thing is, these industries are the industries of the future. Now, the other problem you have is the brain drain of the U.S., especially in genome and pharmaceutical. Because of the administration's RF crazy running it, a lot of the technology people are moving offshore to do development in the pharmaceutical area. They're going, okay, we're not going to fight RFK and his crazies. We're just going to develop our technology outside the United States. And the real question, of course, well, if this trend continues, the U.S. lose its leadership position in microbiology, and then eventually in technology in general, and eventually become a second-class country similar to, it's bad, but like it'll be like more like a UK, where China will be the dominant economic force around the world. And that's quite a possibility by 2040. That given the built-in problems of the U.S., that China becomes the dominant economic force in 2040, becomes the real superpower, and the U.S. is regulated to number 2 or 3 position. Yeah, and when I say 2 or 3, India might end up in the number 2 slot. I don't see Russia even climbing into the top 10. It's too small.
Yeah, I mean, I can see that. And honestly, China's placed himself in that position by a lot, especially a lot of stuff that they're doing now around technology and education and even energy, because China has one of the biggest, they're one of the ones that's they put together that giant, it looks like a giant X, but it's a facility that they're pushing hard to push nuclear fusion. And nuclear fusion is that big new technology that's going to push that energy market way out there.
Well, and they also have massive human resources. I mean, 1.6 million compared to our 300 million, 1.6 billion. So if you look at the human resources, they could put, 5 Chinese engineers on a project for every one that we put on a project. I mean, this is something the U.S. probably isn't even aware of. That's the reason I like Dr. Sharif come on, because that's where half the action of the world is. It's not over in the U.S., and why we're digging around with this Charlie guy, who, frankly, I've never heard of until this thing happened. I don't follow that stuff that well. But
the problem,
in the meantime, China's going, okay, and we're going to go develop more technology. In other words, we're going to build more bridges, build more robots, increase our AI. We're going to work together at unison. And I want to hear what's going on over there. Do they have the divisiveness, or are they all working in lockstep to make China the number 1 country in the world? I think the latter. I think they're working all together in lockstep to make sure that China becomes the number 1 dominant superpower in the world by 2040, where the U.S. is bigger.
If you look at our heyday, when we came out of the war, or World War II, what did we do? We invested heavily into education, heavily into technology. Honestly, when Sputnik went up, that pushed us to do the race to space. So we pushed to lead technology or lead the world in technology and technological advancements and all this other stuff. But now we've hit a point where education is so political, science is so political, all these things. If we want to invest in NASA, they're not doing anything and blah, blah, blah. But we're not talking about the advancements in technology that NASA put forward to help out everything that everybody's using today. In terms of even just the global technology of looking at how the earth is warming and weather is changing and so on and all that stuff. Science and technology is what led us to lead the world. But we're actually falling behind because we're stuck with everything being political, no matter what it is. No matter vaccines are trying to kill me because they're trying to take my money. That's not true. Vaccines have been, now we're starting to fall in technology and vaccines. mRNA vaccine, or the mRNA, as we talked about earlier, that's a technology that's actually leading to breakthroughs in cancer rates, or actually curing cancer, which is something that we all want. When we're not leading in the sciences, the technologies, and the maths, because everything becomes political, everything is someone's out to get me, someone scare me, some other country that we're supposedly against, which honestly, we shouldn't be so adversarial, because that is also what's causing us an issue. We should figure out we should change that adversary to a competition, because that competitiveness is what actually led us with Sputnik. Because yes, we didn't want to be attacked also by Russia, but it was mainly because it was that competition. We had to be first. We had to be number 1. Now we're not that. We're hateful towards others that aren't us. And that's the way we shouldn't be. We should be, hey, we should compete with these individuals and we should prove that we are the best. And that's the idea that we should get back to, and get back to investing in sciences, investing in medicines, investing in all these technologies, getting our kids, updating the schools to a new era, utilizing AI for school. Well, not utilizing AI to teach schools, but utilizing AI to find out ways that we're going to combat AI in schools. That should be a class within itself. But we have to make advances in schools. We have to make advances in science and technologies. But that's what we're not doing right now. And until we do that, we're going to start falling back. And that's the scary part, because if we're falling back, we're losing money, and that causes problems. Hey, Mark, you're back.
We're going to wrap up this show. Yeah. And then we'll get wrap up. We got Ukraine, Russia, China going ahead and get them started. So we'll wrap up, and then we'll see you later on. And might see you in person in the week. But that will see you on Monday. But we're going to wrap up the show right here. Everything, fun conversation around technology.
All right.